Now, let us talk a bit about the history of this subject. Psychical self-regulation as a European direction of thought. These ideas originated in Europe, namely in Germany. German physicians at the end of the 19th century began to develop the idea which they called autogenic training. Their books were translated into Russian. The book Autogenic Training by Dr. Schultz became most well known. What was the subject of these recommendations and research? Relaxation, first of all. One could relax the body and the mind when lying on the back or sitting in the so-called coachman's posture, that is, sitting on a chair in a stooped pose. Of course, this had nothing to do with yoga as a spiritual direction, but it laid the basis of this subject, and it played a positive role as a prehistory of psychical self-regulation. The next large stage was the activity of Alexander Roman, a doctor-psychiatrist who worked in Alma-Ata and in Moscow. The very term psychical self-regulation was invented by him. He dedicated much of his time and effort to this direction and published many works on this subject. What did he write about? Mainly, it was just propaganda of the idea that workers of mines practice psychical self-regulation, that workers of hospitals also, and so on. It was very good, because, thanks to him, the term psychical self-realization was accepted and became well known. But Roman did not create any system of teaching psychical self-regulation. Such a system was created for the first time by us, by our scientific spiritual school. Why can I claim this? Because efficient psychical self-regulation is not possible without the use of the functions of the chakras. The chakras are reflexogenous zones of the emotional, volitional sphere. By moving the concentration of the consciousness into a certain chakra, we can, just thanks to this movement of the consciousness, change the attunement of ourselves either to intellectual activity or to the perception of the beautiful or to developing in ourselves the most significant quality, the capability for cordial love, or to work, activity, etc. Without the use of the chakras, one cannot as efficiently regulate one's own psychical state. It is our books that presented for the first time a description of the functions of the chakras and the methods of working with them. And for the first time, thanks to these books, the very concept of the chakras became legitimized in the USSR. Before this, the functionaries of the Communist Party who supervised the science asserted that the existence of chakras was not proved by science, and therefore there were no chakras whatsoever. Thus, the very subject of chakras was forbidden. Yet chakras do exist. One can learn to use them. And this marks the beginning of the true path of yoga. Raja Yoga and the next higher stage, Buddhi Yoga. I should mention also that there is a lot of different literature about chakras, published by incompetent authors from different countries, and this literature has caused much harm. For example, there is a statement, though this is not the most harmful one, that chakras contain structures resembling lotus flowers with a different number of petals. But in the chakras, there are no lotuses. They contain no such structures whatsoever. Chakras are volumes filled with bioenergies, or with the consciousness of man. If the practitioners try to see lotus flowers in the chakras, it is not harmful. By doing it, they learn to concentrate in the chakras. Another error is extremely harmful. A long time ago, another German doctor wrote a book where he claimed that the chakras have to be colored with different colors. Since there are 7 main colors of the rainbow, 7 musical notes, 7 chakras, all are 7. Therefore, every chakra has to have a corresponding note and a corresponding color. For example, it turned out that the Anahata chakra has to be green, And this tragic error caused a lot of harm to a very large number of people who sincerely wanted to become better and believed this false idea. Let us understand that in the Anahata chakra, the spiritual heart has to be born and to begin to grow. Then, the spiritual heart has to transform by its quality to the state of the Holy Spirit and the Creator. The Holy Spirit, the Creator, what is their color? Tender, white goldish. Juan Matus spoke of amber-tinted color. And what is the use of a green spiritual heart? God is not green at all. Who is green? Frogs? So, with a green spiritual heart, one can aspire to merge with swamp algae, for example, but not with God. All the chakras have to be made perfect. The most important of them is the Anahata chakra. We can grow properly as a consciousness in qualitative and quantitative aspects only as spiritual hearts. There is no other possibility. The state of all the chakras has to be made as close as possible to the state of God, in the aspect of the Creator and in the aspect of the Holy Spirit. The subtlest stratum in the entire multidimensional Absolute is the Creator. We have to strive to submerge the spiritual heart into Him. Then we will be able to draw there all other structures of the organism that have value there. What structures do I mean? There are chakras. They were known in India in particular. There is also the concept of dantians. They were known by Chinese Taoists. The chakra Anahata is the middle dantian. There is also the lower dantian. Power block of the organism consisting of the three lower chakras. And there are three upper chakras composing the upper dantian. The main dantian is the middle one, and the other two are auxiliary. They are also necessary. They too have their own functions. We can submerge into the Creator with all our dantians and merge with Him. This is an important goal, which is a worthy effort. In order to be able to submerge all the dantians into the Creator, we have to bring them to His state. Let me repeat that His light, is tender white goldish. It makes no sense to try to enter the Creator with red, green, or other colored chakras. People who are engaged in the work of coloring their chakras, unless they wash out, which is very hard to do, they have no possibility to reach the higher stages on the path of spiritual development. This is a trap. I ask everyone not to follow this harmful tendency and stay away from those who promote such vicious, dangerous, pseudo-spiritual tendencies. By the way, one may ask, pointing at me, why does he impose his opinion as if he alone is right? Why should others believe him? The point is that our group has managed to traverse the entire path. We have reached the end of the path. Of course, we know that there are more possibilities for continuing work on ourselves, but we have traversed the entire path. And therefore, we can see very well the mistakes made by other seekers. If you have traversed and studied the entire path, if you know it, then you can see concrete stages of this path, and you can easily discern true and false attempts of other peoples who try to walk this path. So, in our past conversations, we agreed that the main chakra is Anahata, and that the straight path is the path of love for the creation and the Creator. And if through our love for the creation we have mastered the function of love with a capital letter, then we can fall in love with the Creator too. Thanks to this love, we merge with Him in the end. If we have made at least initial steps on this path, namely, if we have developed ourselves as spiritual hearts, then it is easy to develop further. Then we learn to be subtler and larger spiritual hearts. How can we grow? For this purpose, we have to find some forms that we can fill with ourselves as spiritual hearts. They can be cocoons of strong, powerful, subtle trees of different biological species. In our region, they are poplars, pines, birches, and spruces. I mean, some particular plants, which can be called plants of power. That is, this concerns only certain specimens, not the entire biological species. So we can learn to fill their forms with ourselves as spiritual hearts by exiting from the Anahata chakra backward into these forms. Then we can spread into the expanses that we find in the mountains, in the steppe, over the sea. By training in this way, we become larger and larger spiritual hearts and gain the ability to see with the consciousness. Another important point is that the spiritual heart necessarily has to have arms with hands. With these hands we can support, nourish other living beings with our power of love and help them. If we walk this path, then Holy Spirits very soon become visible for us. And if we are able to see them, then we can also hear them. After all, it is more convenient to hear someone if you see them. By filling the forms of consciousness of our divine teachers, Holy Spirits, by attuning with them, we grow with their help up to the level when we can enter the abode of the Creator. And then one learns higher meditations, such as the temple, 2 temples, the cross of Philip, Apostle Philip, etc. Then one can look from the primordial consciousness at the creation and come to the matter of one's own body from the other side, from the side of the Creator, and can transform the matter of the body path. The idea of the straight path exists in Buddhism. It is also present in Islam as a principle of directing one's attention toward the Creator. The straight path is the shortest path to full spiritual self-realization. Of course, one has to keep in mind that the techniques of psychical self-regulation alone cannot enable one to grow to the fullness of perfection. 2 other components are also necessary: intellectual and ethical ones. We have to understand with the mind what is God to begin with. Yet so few people can give a reasonable answer to this question. At best, they can tell you one of the names of God and tell you that this is God. But they have no idea what is behind these names. They would not tell you that God is the Creator, the primordial consciousness, that God is also the Absolute, that is, everything, the Creator, together with His creation. And they do not know what we should do in relation to the fact that there is God. The majority of people who acknowledge the existence of God begin to beg from Him salvation for themselves, or, at best, for someone else as well. But in reality, God does not need our prayers or different variations of our worship. God needs our efforts on self-development concerning the repentance practiced in some spiritual movements. Its purpose does not consist in begging forgiveness for our misdeeds. Its purpose is to learn not to repeat mistakes. If we have understood this, then the ethical component of spiritual development becomes a reality for us. The ethical work on oneself becomes meaningful. One should not kowtow all day long, but rather learn to avoid repeating mistakes. But what is a mistake and what is not? We are able to discern this only if we understand what is God, what is man, what is the meaning of our lives. This meaning consists in our spiritual development. The meaning of life consists in spiritual development, not in accumulation of money or becoming elevated over others. Only if we have understood this very well, only then can we make significant progress in our personal evolution in short periods of time. And this will be the true religion, the true yoga. And psychical self-regulation at this level can be regarded as a direction of yoga, as a real and effective path of spiritual self-realization. Let us walk this path. So, our task is to become spiritual hearts. If we have become large spiritual hearts, then we can embrace the creation with the arms of this heart. We can hold it in our palms. If we redirect the look of consciousness to the Creator, then we can embrace the Creator and merge with Him. But what should we start with? After all, no one can do this without long preliminary training. I too, several tens of years ago, began to learn and did not understand how one can exit outside the body. Did not know from which chakra one should do this. But I learned this. God taught me. And now, the problem for me is not how to exit from the body, but how to enter the body. I'm kidding. I mean that I'm infinitely larger than my body. I can decrease myself and introduce fingers from my infinity into different chakras, into different parts of my body. So what can one start with? What first steps can one make in order to begin walking this path? This does not mean to reason about the path, as the majority of people do not consider themselves yogis of different directions. Such reasoning is of no use. One has to walk the path rather than standing on it, or sitting or lying on it. One has to walk. And in order to begin mastering the functions of the spiritual heart, one can use the meditation called the Cross of Buddha. With its help, one has to learn, among other things, to look with the eyes of the soul from the Anahata chakra. For this purpose, it is good to learn to feel the head inside the thorax. We can feel there the eyes, the nose, the mouth. We can stroke the hair with the hands of the consciousness. To prevent the head from moving up from the thorax, we can use a very simple technique. To put a cap on the head. This cap prevents the head from moving up. If a cap is not enough for you, you can put on a wide sombrero. If a sombrero is not enough, then put roofing iron on top. And this allows one to stay inside the thorax without moving up. This is very important. Then we begin to send waves of love from the chest to all sides from this center. This is the first stage of centering. Let me remind you that the second stage of centering is to feel the earth's core as the center of oneself. This is done by moving the spiritual heart there. Then the entire abode of the Creator can become our center, and there we merge with Him if we have mastered the necessary methods, the methods of merging ourselves as consciousnesses with the consciousness of the Creator. This has to be learned separately. Now let us feel that we all sit in a room, everyone facing the same direction, including the instructor. The instructor should sit behind others in this case. First, we create in the thorax certain states and then radiate them outwards from the thorax. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be calm. May all beings be blissful. I forgot to tell you that it is most convenient to perform this meditation in the so-called student's posture. Of course, one can perform it while standing or sitting on a chair. But in the case of training in the class, it is best to learn this meditation in the student's posture. So we sit on our heels, with our knees slightly moved apart, soles facing upwards. First, we create a certain state inside the thorax, under the cap, or it can be a sombrero, or whatever you like. It is important that the head does not pop up from the chest. We create in the thorax a certain state and then radiate it as a wide wave to one direction, then to another direction, then to yet another, and so on. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be calm. May all beings be blissful. We do the same to the right. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be calm. May all beings be blissful. Backwards. May all beings be peaceful. When doing this, we learn to turn the face of the consciousness to every side, also upwards and downwards. We turn the consciousness, the face of the consciousness. We learn to look to all sides from within the body. So we do it backwards. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be calm. May all beings be blissful. To the left. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be calm. May all beings be blissful. Upwards. At this point, we have to manage not to move up when we direct the look of the consciousness upwards from the anahata. We have to remain in the thorax. We just look up from the thorax. If we feel the eyes of the consciousness in the thorax, then we have not moved up. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be calm. May all beings be blissful. And now downwards. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be calm. May all beings be blissful. This is a very powerful meditation that allows us to solve many problems. In the beginning, when we just start mastering it, it can be that we do not feel these waves coming out from the thorax. But after some time, when we have mastered it, after a couple of months of everyday training, by the way, it is best to do it in the early morning, we really begin to feel waves of our love, calm and bliss, emanating to large distances beyond the limits of our planet to the universe. In this way, we also develop our anahatas. Thanks to this, we begin to feel ourselves as spiritual hearts. In this way, we center ourselves properly. The middle dantian is the main structure inside our bodies. There are two other dantians, the upper one, which is intellectual, and the lower one, but they are not auxiliary, but they are auxiliary. In no case should they dominate over the main middle dantian. The middle dantian is the central one. In it, we have to begin the initial work on centering ourselves. And thanks to this exercise, we can advance significantly, so that even if we have additional incarnations, we will incarnate possessing an already developed spiritual heart. But in the current incarnation, we have to do as much as possible. We have to reach the higher levels of meditative development that I have mentioned already. And after this exercise, we can begin mastering other exercises, and we can do them in standing position. This is a series of the so-called psychophysical exercises. Why are they called so? Because in these exercises, the physical component, that is, the movement of the body, contributes to achieving a certain physical state, a certain physical effect. We raise the right hand. Those of us who are right-handers, if you are a left-hander, raise your left hand. And we draw a sinusoid line with your hand. While repeating this movement, we look forward from the anahata and extend the arm further and further forward. In the end, we have to make the arm very long, many kilometers in length. And we will feel that we do this exercise throughout the universe by stretching the arm very far. So we draw a sinusoid. Sinusoid is a symbol of harmony. With the help of the sinusoid, we harmonize the surrounding space. And we must not forget about the cap or sombrero. Then we can turn the body and do this exercise to all four sides, one after another. This exercise is useful for us, and with its help, we also harmonize the space. We harmonize living beings by tuning with them, with ourselves, those beings which we reach with our influence. It is easier to understand this principle using opposites. For someone it may be hard to believe that you may stand or sit and influence large volumes of space. Let us consider, for example, the opposite, an irritated, angry person. How much he can attune other people to himself. How hard it is to communicate with him. With a person who is angry, irritated, a grumbler, a despising monster. Unfortunately, there are many such people around us. Poor people who prepare themselves for hell and do not pay heed to the preachings about love, about God. These people greatly attune others to themselves and harm others. And others can really become ill because of them. But these irritated and angry people suffer themselves most of all. On the contrary, those who develop themselves spiritually can behave in the opposite way. They can ennoble the space around them. They can give to others peace, calm, love, and bliss. Not everyone will respond to such influence. The people of hell will not necessarily resonate. But concerning those who are capable and want to become better, we have to help them. The next exercise, again, we should not forget about the cap on the head. We can move from the anahata backwards. It can be that we cannot do it in the beginning. One needs months of practice with the initial methods before one begins to perform them successfully. But if we have really become spiritual hearts, which are larger than the chest of the body, the chest of the body can be viewed as a cage for the spiritual heart. First, we develop inside it, but then we have to abandon it. And then we can move out from the body backwards. Why do we need to move backwards? Because in the backbone there is the median kritrini. By going backward through this meridian, we can appear in the subtlest eons, in the subtlest spatial dimensions. This is more difficult to do by exiting forward, because we are used to see the tonal, i.e., the world of matter, when we look forward. So if we have learned to look backwards with the help of the meditation of the cross of Buddha, among other things, then what do we see by looking backwards? We see subtle worlds. This is why in meditative trainings it is better to begin to learn to exit the body backwards. So we have exited backward. We can address the Holy Spirit and ask Him to receive us in Himself. We can recite a remarkable prayer meditation called the Heavenly Tsar while looking backward from the Anahata. This is the best orthodox meditation. Heavenly Tsar, the Consoler, the Spirit of Truth, omnipresent and all-pervading, treasury of all good and source of all life, come and abide in us, and cleanse us of all impurity, and save us souls, O blissful one. So we can feel movement. After exiting from the chest of the body into the Holy Spirit, we have to try to feel the movement of the Holy Spirit around the body and through the body forwards. If we have merged with Him, then we can create His movement ourselves. But let me repeat once again that one may not manage to do it on the first try. During the first training, one may need to practice again and again. And this has to be done at places with auspicious energy for this. It is good to master this in a group, together with people who have already traversed certain stages of the refinement of the consciousness and who do not use killed food, meat and fish. So we have exited from the body into the Holy Spirit. We have merged with Him, and in this meditation we can flow forward through our bodies. And let this meditation sound in all of the space of the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Tsar, Consoler, the Spirit of Truth, omnipresent and all-pervading, treasury of all good and source of all life, come and abide in us, and cleanse us of all impurity, and save us souls, O blissful one. I should mention that in the old Slavonic language, the words «вездеси» и «все наполняющий» mean existing everywhere and filling everything. Some people understand it incorrectly. They understand it as fulfilling everything, but the correct meaning is filling everything. Having mastered this exercise, we can perform another exercise, which is called giving away. We fill the Anahata chakra, or become even larger than it, become a large spiritual heart, and then with a movement of the hands, like this, we send a wave of our love. We flood everything. As a sea wave comes to the shore, even so, we can radiate our wave of love to infinity. We give our love away. We can continue flowing with the Holy Spirit. We can be Him. We send this wave like an oceanic wave to the world of matter, where incarnated things live, and there are non-incarnated beings as well. One can do this exercise to all sides, one after another. If we begin every morning with this meditation, then we spend the rest of the day in love, rather than in irritation. By developing ourselves like this, we will become larger and more steadfast spiritual hearts. This will ensure our social stability, among other things. It is hard to be subtle without being small, while being small. But we have to go through this difficult stage of development and become subtle and large. What is next? For example, there is the exercise awakening. We feel that we come out from our country house in the early morning. The plants are wet with dew. Gentle mist covers everything around. The first rays of the sun have just appeared. Goldish sunlight fills all the space around. We ask the Holy Spirit to concentrate as a large cloud above our heads. Then we move our arms down like this, inviting Him to flow through our bodies. We repeat it again and again, and invite the waves of the Holy Spirit to flow through the body, and we move together with Him, in mergence with Him, through our bodies. The Holy Spirit thus purifies our bodies. One of the purposes of this exercise, though not the main one, is to heal ourselves. In the distant past, this exercise was introduced to Europe by Bapak Sabuch. He travelled from one monastery to another and taught this method to monks. Both laymen and monks learned this method under his guidance and healed themselves. Later on, this method was called Latihan. Why? Because if we have mastered moving waves through our bodies, we can begin to move as an unceasing flow. We can feel ourselves in paradise, standing under a waterfall of the blissful flow of the Holy Spirit. And then the body begins to dance by itself. To help begin dancing, we have to raise the arms up and stand on our tiptoes. So we feel ourselves under a waterfall of parasidiacal, blissful flow among the fragrance of flowers in bliss. Thus dance begins, and we can dance for a very long time. It is easier to begin dancing if we use good music, which is very smooth, gentle, and harmonious. In this way, we learn to merge with God in the aspect of the Holy Spirit. Gentleness, tenderness. Let us become filled with these states. Not only the consciousness, but let the bodies as well become transformed, become healed, refined, and purified from coarse energies and from all illnesses. This makes for a very good beginning. So, we have to develop ourselves as spiritual hearts. This is the main idea of the entire spiritual path. Because the spiritual path, according to God, is the path of the spiritual heart.